Welcome to today's Table Talks. My name is Scott Kappelman. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Clark McGee. He's on the far end of the table, and Tyce Lawbinger's here in the middle. Clark, we recorded the previous episode just a few moments ago. Any major changes in your life since our last recording?
No, I do flip-flop my opinion pretty fast, but I'm still solid on what I came to last episode.
Clark, tell them about your exciting day yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, so I have been out hunting a few times now this season, and the season's almost over. This upcoming Saturday, about 6 days from now, the season will be over. And I went out yesterday, and I finally saw kind of a medium-sized buck, and not a trophy or anything, but something to put meat in the freezer. So that's actually why I'm wearing this shirt today. I've got my deer shirt on.
It's kind of like a deer trophy, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. That's right. Yeah. A little deer show off. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I got to get some meat in the freezer. So it was an exciting day. Thank you, Tyce.
What do you think you get out of that deer?
Well, I actually already know. It was about 25 pounds. So
do most of it in ground deer, or be sausage, or some tenderloin, or a little bit of all of it?
I think we're going to do about 7 pounds of ground deer. I'm going to try to do like 8 of sausage, and then the rest like roast and steak and those kind of things. But
okay. So you're going to have some pretty good meat in the freezer here. Sure.
I'm really excited. I love deer sausage more than anything else. I don't even like ground deer very much, but putting it in chili and those types of things is fine. But
okay. Now, Tyce, you haven't killed a deer?
Yeah, I've killed a deer.
Oh, yeah, you did kill a deer.
Yep.
That's right. Did you get about 25 pounds off yours?
Mine was a doe. I got probably 23-ish.
you got about 25.
Yeah, I got my ground beef or my ground meat yesterday.
Already picked it?
Yeah, and I haven't gotten the sausage yet, but
okay.
Yep. So
that's exciting, but y'all got some new meat in the freezer.
That's right.
It is exciting.
Okay, well, that's not our topic today. Is deer hunting.
No, it is not.
And meat in the freezer.
Is it ethical?
Yeah, well, you could ask that.
Our topic today is what can churches do to minister to single people? And I think this is a very relevant topic. I'm not sure if we think a lot of churches do this real well, but it's a very significant ministry. So let's dive into that. Before we get too far into it, how do we want to define singles in the local church? Because we've not had a discussion about this topic prior to the recording, so we're kind of going at this a little bit differently than we normally do. So what did y'all have in mind when we started with this topic? How can churches minister to singles?
So define singles, do you mean, this might answer it. So there's those who are not in a relationship looking for a relationship, and those who are not in a relationship not looking for a relationship?
That was not really how I went about it, but it does cover the topic in some regards.
Okay.
I would say the unmarried, and that means the never married.
Okay.
Nobody the people who are single who've never been married. And then I put in my list, and I didn't know if we wanted to address this in today's topic or not, the divorced. And then the next group would be widows or widowers. And I think all of those are classified as singles in some form or fashion. Did y'all have that in mind, or did you specifically zero in on a particular group? Unmarried, divorced, widows, and widowers.
I thought about almost all these groups. Would you say if they're dating, they're still single because they're not married?
Yes,
okay.
I would throw them in that same category.
Okay, so like you're like the tax people. So that if you're not,
I didn't think about that, but maybe you have in mind, Clark.
I was thinking people that are. I was more along the lines of Tyce, and maybe it's because we do the college ministry. But I was thinking people that are not in a relationship at all, because oftentimes people that are in very serious relationships are heading towards marriage. So they have that in mind, but they're not yet married. So when I think of singles ministry, I don't think of dating couples ministry. I think of people that are purely just not in a relationship at all. And widows and divorced people are in that category. But probably just, again, because I do the youth and college ministry, I'm thinking people that are not in a relationship, young most often, but not always. So
and you can see the age difference between the person on my left and the person on my right on what you're thinking of when you're thinking of singles.
That is true.
Well, I think that each of these may require a different type of ministry. They are all
That's very true.
people because you've got unmarried, divorced, they're single again, and then you've got widows and widowers. They're single, but they're at a different stage of life for the most part, not always, because you can have someone who's widowed early.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they go back into the single category. But I just want us to kind of all be on the same page, or at least have an understanding of the potential groups that we're talking about in a local church. So what percentage, without me giving you the statistics I gathered, what percentage of the average church's makeup do you think is represented by single people?
What a great
Just have to
question.
take a
That's a
guess.
great question.
I could be, I'm a little scared to even say this because I could be so far off, but I'm going to say 8%.
8%?
I was gonna say like 63.
63% are single?
By your definition of unmarried, I think there's I
You
think
include the divorced and the widows?
divorced, widowed, and then just all your
Dating people,
all your
yeah.
all your kids programs, your babies programs, your youth programs, your college programs.
Well, I think that this would probably throw the kids and the youth into a family section.
Oh, well then I'm gonna lower my guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 26%.
Actually, you're pretty close. According to AI, this is purely AI.
Okay.
23% of the average church membership is considered single.
Wow, good job, Tyce.
23%. So you were close once you adjusted your figure. And that would be 17% are unmarried. That means they've never been married. 14% are divorced of the 23%. 6% are widows, and 8%, and this is the one that might bother you a little bit, are cohabitating.
Yeah.
Now that's of the 23%. 17% of that are unmarried, 14 are divorced, 6 are widowed, and 8 are cohabitating. Now that doesn't
It doesn't add up to 100%.
So I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, that's AI for you,
Yeah, that's
really,
AI.
but yeah.
So, there you go. And generally speaking, women make up a larger portion of the singles in a local church than, which would make a lot of sense.
That does.
to me. I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like most of a church's ministry programming is geared to married couples or families?
Yes.
No doubt about it.
And then why?
From a purely
I
practical
agree with that,
perspective,
too. I think it is.
from a purely practical perspective, the majority of our church, based on that statistic that you just gave now,
If the 23% is correct.
right, then 77% of the church is going to fall into that first category. So that may be why the emphasis is placed there. I would also say just a lack of knowledge about what to do with the singles ministry, which is what we're going to talk about today. But I mean, I would love to target the singles ministry and do something for them in some way. But
Yeah, I also just think your church leadership, it is hard because of the lack of knowledge. Because, I mean, I just think of when I was applying, it was a big deal that I was going to get married and that I would have a wife being the kids minister. And I think the same thing for a pastor. It's a big deal that they're married and they show like, hey, there's someone holding me accountable at home. There's someone that I am actively showing these characteristics that Christ has taught us and being sanctified through marriage. And so I think it's a big deal for churches and the staff that they hire. And so most staff that is hired by a church is married or has a prospect to marry in some way, whether that be serious relationship. And so a lot of staff just probably don't know or remember what it's like to be single.
So, Tyce, I'm going to go back. You're the most recent hire for our church.
Yep.
Do you think, or did you have any churches as you were going through the interview processes, as you were graduating college, that indicated we do not want a single person, we want to make sure the person we hire is married? Did anybody bring that up to you, or was it
Just Crosspoint.
just me,
Just Crosspoint, yeah.
or just us?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So
And I do think you're correct. Most churches feel more comfortable when the staff person is married. It gives them maybe a sense of credibility. There's maybe some integrity issues that people don't have to worry about as much, or at least they don't think they should.
Yeah.
So,
And it's not always the case. I mean, I
No,
can
it's
think
not
of a few
always.
people
Yeah.
now that are the exceptions, but
Absolutely.
I do agree, Tyce. I think that for the majority of time.
Tyce, you have a friend who's a single guy,
Mhm.
and he's a pastor. of
He's a
church
pastor. Yep.
in Illinois.
Yep.
And that doesn't seem to be an issue for that church.
Not at all.
And I was hired at my first church being a single guy
Mm.
before Kelly and I were engaged or dating.
Right. Okay.
So there's definitely exceptions, not expectations. Exceptions.
There are those too. But
I do think just the standard, not that it's the church's intentional standard to only hire married people, but I just think that's majority of your staff is probably also married.
Well, I wrote down, these are the reasons why I think most churches focus their programming, ministry programming, on married couples or families. Number one, there's a belief that married couples and families are more stable, so they're going to be there longer, so you're going to invest in them, because a single may be there 2 months, but if some better job comes along or they start dating someone else, they're going to leave. So the married couples and the families are more stable. Number two, there's a belief that you can grow a church with couples and families. I don't know that there's a belief you can grow a church with singles. Number three, there's also a belief that couples and families are more faithful financially to support the church than single people. And I don't know that that's true, but I do think that's a belief that's held by a lot of churches, is that our families and our young couples are going to give better than our singles. And then number four is why I think people tend to focus this way. It's easier for the people who organize, lead, and execute these ministries to, they're typically themselves, to our point that we've been talking about, are married or have families.
Yep.
So they identify better with other couples or families, and their time schedule follows with families and other couples instead of singles. Because singles sometimes can have a different schedule altogether than a regular group of people. So I think all of those are contributing factors that lead most churches to kind of bypass singles ministry and just focus on married couples or families. Okay, so before we go any further, I mentioned in a previous point, can a local church be sustained on a ministry that's predominantly composed of single people?
I think so.
You think they can?
Yeah.
What do you think, Clark?
Yeah, I don't know why not. I mean, I think, if you were to pull out statistics and those types of things, it's probably true that single people are more likely to just move and to go away and that kind of thing. But I'm thinking of the college ministry right now, like we just pour into the college students as much as we can, knowing that eventually they probably are going to leave. But I think the singles ministry should be similar, like not even assuming that they're going to leave, but just saying, hey, if you do leave, at least I have taken this time to pour into you. So yeah, I think so.
I've known of a few churches that probably were really, really good at ministering to singles, and it did feel like that particular church or two that I have in mind, they were doing fine. Now, they did struggle a little bit financially. That was always a concern. But, I think they established a sustainable ministry just to single people. I don't think it's the most healthy way, because I think multi-generation is always
Well,
best.
yeah, absolutely.
But I do think it could be done. But I think there are some people who have a myth in mind. You can't really build a church on just single people, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well, I don't think you can build a church just on families either, and we'll get into some scripture on why.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some single verses that are going to come to mind, but
Yeah, multi-generational and multi everything really is super key.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so that gets us to our main question. What are some ways a local church can better minister to singles? Any thoughts on that?
The first thing that came to mind, actually, and this is going to call our church out a little bit, it's just the way you title things. So I think of Sundays, we call it family worship, especially on holidays whenever we don't have nursery. And so we really emphasize this is our family worship. And so for a single, it might be a little bit harder for them on those Sundays because they're realizing, hey, like we're really emphasizing family this Sunday or these next 2 Sundays. And even though we don't call it family worship every Sunday, we really emphasize through titles, this is family worship, this is what we do as a family. And so if they haven't fully connected into the family of God and feel like Crosspoint is their family, that can be a little hard for them to overcome sometimes and just say like, well, I don't really have a family to bring with me to church.
You'd say rebrand.
Rebranding.
How you title things.
Yeah.
Posting. Okay.
Yeah. But you don't have to, but just in the topic of self-conscious or being conscious towards singles, that could be a step.
Okay. Clark, you got a thought or two?
I think the first thing is developing really strong relationships with everybody in the church. And when you do that, singles will be taken into that because, a listener's first thought probably, and my first thought even was like, oh, we should help set them up. But what if that's not what they want? So like to develop that really strong relationship for them to be able to come to you and say, hey, I'm looking for a relationship and I'm wondering if you have anybody in mind, and then going into that process of setting them up. But I think just developing that relationship first where they would be comfortable enough to come to you and say, I'm looking for a relationship. If you have anything in mind, let me know. because a lot of us, I think, want to be saviors in that way and think because our relationship is so great, like maybe it's not coming from such a bad place, but like, oh, because my relationship is so great, I want to go and give everybody else a relationship too, but that might not be what they're looking for. So
That's good. Any other thoughts? I got a few things, but I was going to.
there's one thing we're avoiding right now, which a lot of people, again, are probably thinking, setting up a ministry specifically for singles and say, hey, you guys all come out here and this is our singles ministry. But I think all of us kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand. We don't know exactly what we think about that, right?
Okay. Let me chase that for just a minute, because I do think there can be an opportunity to set up a singles ministry, like you've just mentioned, that includes fellowships, Bible studies, worship, and service opportunities. It could be very similar to a college ministry, very similar to a student ministry, could be very similar to a senior adult ministry. So I think there is an opportunity to do that. For me, though, I think the key would be that we would need to find a couple who has been in a successful singles ministry in their lifetime, that maybe they may have even met in that singles ministry. They ended up getting married, but they have seen how it works, and they kind of remember how that singles ministry ministered to them in that season of their lives. And if that couple can then lead whatever type of singles ministry you do, they're going to be more sensitive to, let's design this ministry program in a way that's going to meet the needs just like ours were met when we were in that season.
So I do have, because this is my first thought, and I think a listener might be listening, and you said that, and they just throw their hands up and like, of course he wants a married couple to do the singles ministry. And so I see the importance of it, and I know you do. And so can you explain why it's important that a couple leads it?
Well, if you've got a guy who's leading that ministry, and you've got a lot of, this is just me speaking about it, and you've got a lot of single girls, there could be some complicated issues come up, because maybe he wants to date one of the girls, or several of the girls like him, and so it just gets real sticky. And it could be in the reverse if you had a single woman, and you could have the same situation unfold. And so I just think having a married couple that has, and I think this is why the key is that couple has had to have a season of their life, maybe 5, 7, 8 years, where they were singles, and they've lived through that, and they can better identify with what those people might need or want, or the ministries that they need to sustain them in their faith. I just think that works better.
Yeah.
It's a complementary ministry. The guy's probably going to be able to do some discipleship with guys. The wife can do discipleship with the girls. When they host events, there's a built-in integrity to it. You're going to always have a guy, always have a girl. Therefore, if one girl shows up and 3 guys, it's not awkward because there's a female there with him. So I just think there's some built-in features for it to be a couple, a married couple. Was that where you were going to go?
Yeah,
with that?
that's exactly. I was thinking integrity, accountability, but then also I was going to add just, it's almost like when those leaders become like the parents of the group, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so like that's what we love with the college students. Like me and Brooklyn have people come over and we love to host them. Not because we feel like they're parents, not that's we're trying to like have something over them, but like we just, when it's a couple that's together, they're joined in everything. Like you said, like they are going to be joined at the events. They're going to have this, they're going to be able to come home and talk about it together. And it won't be awkward because it's a single guy and a single girl talking about the ministry together. And there's just a sense of like, these are our people that the Lord has given us right now that we can take care of together as a couple.
But I do think there needs to be, if we do, or a church has a singles ministry, that's one facet of ministering to singles, but there also has to be a bridge where those singles are also incorporated into the everyday ebb and flow of the church. It can't be a silo standing over here alone. And I'm afraid that's what happens sometimes in churches that do try to establish a singles ministries. They just say, oh, we're just going to do all the single stuff over here, but we're not going to ever bridge and bring them into the other activities of the church. And I think that's a detriment too.
And I think that ties in well to what I was getting at earlier about, I'm not sure exactly how we feel about all that kind of thing because of that concept. But
And that's why I'd written down in my list, I think establishing a mentoring program that matches maybe a older lady, and I use older very graciously here, with a single young woman or an older man with a single young man, again, that's taking them out of the silo of just the singles ministry and giving them a chance to meet other people in the church and spend significant time with them in a spiritual way. Always invite them to all the activities you do. The church could do a game night. The church could do a pickleball tournament. The church could do a disc golf event. It's a church-wide event, but you're going to make sure singles know that they're wanted and needed and want to have them be a part of that.
Church could do bingo for the older singers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So I think it's a complementary. We're going to do some things to minister to you individually in the season that you're in, but we also want you to be a part of, integrated fully into the regular part of what our church is doing. I think it has to be both and.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts on how to do that?
I'll just circle back to what I said about developing relationships. First of all, not to mention, everything we've mentioned so far are for single people who are looking to get in a relationship. There may be some single people in the church that go, I'm not looking. I'm like Paul, and he's like, I wish everybody was single like I am, and I'm chilling as I am, And if that's the case, just get in the church, serve, do anything you would do if you were in a relationship, but just do it for the Lord. But if you are looking for a relationship, I'll just circle back and say, again, just kind of maybe as a challenge to any singles that are listening to this, or people that, I'll just say singles that are listening to this, like really build strong relationships, maybe with your pastor, with a college pastor, with a life group, with a friend that goes to the church, and just say like, hey, if you know single people, let your boy know. You know what I mean? Like just put a good word in, because I think people, I guess I'm just trying to place myself in the mind of a single person, which, Annabeth, if you're listening, I still love you. She's my wife, and I don't mean I'm placing myself in the mind of a single person in that way. But if I was to come into a church, I want to have the fear part eliminated. Like, oh, what if this dude's kind of a creep? What if this girl's a creep? What if so this goes terrible and he's coming to this ministry, but really he's really scary, or she's coming to this ministry and she's really scary. Like, I think to have that rapport built up, that if I don't know, somebody comes to me and says like, hey, this person is a great person and I think you two would go well, then that's totally different than just the singles ministry. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the questions I had is, how do we prevent the singles ministry from becoming a dating service?
Yeah.
And you kind of got into
eHarmony, as we mentioned.
eHarmony in the previous episode,
yeah,
being a Christian dating service. But I think there's some fear factor for people getting involved in the singles ministry because they're afraid that all that's going to be there are people who are hungry for dating relationships that lead to marriage. So how do we balance providing the ministry but not allow it to become something that gets out of hand where it becomes a dating service? Any thoughts on that?
There's a long pause. My first thought is, just as the church, it's all about the leaders that you put in first, because it's the church's job to support the ministries, and it's the church's job to support them in the ministry. It is not the church's job to set them up. Correct. A church member can set them up. That's a whole different thing. Like brother in Christ, like Clark said, sister in Christ, like, hey, I think you'd be really good with this person. But in the ministry, like in the singles ministry, I think the focus needs to be on supporting them and where they're at now, not in singleness, but just supporting them in where they're at in their life, at their job, in their school, wherever they're at, with their kid, if they're a single mom or a single dad, whatever it may be. And I think a lot of times you get into a singles ministry and you put in leaders who maybe are a couple, but they really want to see these people, like these singles, come to be in a relationship. And so all of their lessons have something to do with relationships. I think you don't have to do that. As a church, you can be wise enough to put leaders that are just like, hey, we're here and we are going to study the Bible and that's it. And like, we're going to support you and whatever's going on in your life right now and that's it. And we're going to have a great time. And then we're going to leave.
Well, I had said in my notes that we need to verbally communicate to the group on an ongoing basis. This is not a dating service. We're here to grow in our faith, mature in Christ, and serve Him.
Yeah.
And I think verbally communicating the vision of what the ministry should be, I do think what you said is very true. Going back to the couple, when you've got a couple and they understand that they're there to minister to the singles and not to facilitate dating relationships, that goes a long way. And especially if you got a husband and wife and they've been in that season, they remember what it was like when people tried to set them up, or a ministry tried to set them up, and how uncomfortable that made them feel. If they're the right couple, they'll prevent that because they'll focus on ministry and not dating. And then, I think we also as a church need to be available, especially maybe the leaders over the singles ministry. If we were to establish one, they would need to be available to help those who get trapped with appropriate ways to diminish that trap.
Yeah.
And maybe communicate to the person who's making the one that feels trapped. They need to go to that person and say, this is not what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
And so as leaders, I think we would also need to be available for those purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So those are just some thoughts I had on that. Let's talk about the positives of single life for just a minute, because we've got some verses that might be significant that we don't need to overlook, because singles actually have some opportunities that a lot of people don't have.
No doubt about it.
So dive into any of those verses that you want to talk
so
about.
I have 1 Corinthians 7:32, and I do like that we're at minute 26, and now we're getting into the scripture. Yeah, here we are. You made it this far. Good job. All right, so 1 Corinthians 7:32, Paul is talking, and this is after he had said in chapter 6, like, I wish everyone was like me, unmarried, so you can focus.
That's good.
And so here he is. He says, I want you to be without concerns. The unmarried man is concerned about the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But the married man is concerned about the things of the world, how he may please his wife, and the interests are divided. And so it continues on. If you go to the verse 34, it talks about how the same thing for the woman is just the opposite side of the conversation. But he's talking about, hey, as a single, like, you have no excuse but to be for the Lord at this point. Like, you have no worldly anything that you have to pull your attention to. Yes, you have a job, but you have a lot more control over your job. If I'm going to work for a Christian company, if I'm going to work for someone who builds me up in Christ, if I'm going to work for someone who pulls me out of the church and that doesn't allow me to go to these things. And so as a single, you have such a great opportunity to just be in a relationship with the Lord beyond what any married person can be. And I know that's probably the first verse that everyone hears. Like, if you're single, you've probably heard someone say that to you, but it really is true how great of an opportunity you can have to serve the church, serve the Lord, but also build your relationship with the Lord and how close you can get to him.
Clark, you got a verse?
I do not.
Okay. All right, I'm going to give one that might be a little out of the ordinary. I'm going to say to those who are singles, please find a church, because I find that a lot of times singles live in different places where their family is not located. They've either come to, say, Starkville, where this video is being produced, to go to Mississippi State, get a graduate degree or a PhD, or they've come here to do a job and their family may live in Tupelo or Memphis or somewhere else. And so you are alone. And by joining a church, God is going to provide a family for you. And there's a reference that kind of goes along with this in some ways in Psalm 68, verse 6. God provides homes for those who are deserted. Now, I'm not saying that singles are deserted by any stretch, but the deserted means they're alone. And so a church family, when you join a local church and get involved, even if that church doesn't have the greatest singles ministry, it gives you a chance to have a family away from your family and have people that care for you and love you in Christ and will help you grow in your faith. And so I think, as Tyce just said, and Paul was the one he was quoting, you've got one of the greatest opportunities of your life currently to serve the Lord and be faithful to Him. And if you plug into a local church, He's going to provide a spiritual family, and even in some regards, some local people who can be physical family for you while you're away from your family. So I just want to encourage you to find a local church. We'd love to have you at Cross Point if you're watching this and you don't have a church home. Any other final comments that either one of you want to make before we finish?
I'll redeem myself and add a verse to what you just said, Pastor Scott. So John 1:12, but to all who did receive him, who believe in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. So just as that encouragement that you really are a part of the family of God. And then another encouragement maybe, or challenge to the singles that might be listening, like, we are all married. I would like to see, especially at Cross Point, but maybe if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a Cross Point member, you don't attend Cross Point, you're not from around here, whatever the case might be, Like, reach out to us and tell us what you need. Like, Tyce, I love what you said a second ago about like listening to the needs of the people. I think that goes beyond just singles ministry, but just having an open ear to the needs. So if you're at Crosspoint here or you want to send in an email or whatever, like, let us know how we can best serve the singles ministry. Because again, we are all married and we kind of fall into that category of we haven't been single for a while. So
I would say Lauren Livingston, I'm going to give her a shout out. She's a member of our church, and y'all may know this, you may not. Lauren was a single before she met Matt. She was living in Memphis, Tennessee, and going to a church that did not have a singles ministry, and this goes along with what you've just said.
Mm-hmm.
She and two of her friends went to some of the leadership of that church and said, we think there are a lot of singles in this church. There's not a ministry being done for them. Would you mind us starting a ministry to singles?
Awesome.
And the church leadership got behind Lauren and her two friends, and that ministry began to take off. They began to do just simple things, fellowships and Bible studies, and people began to come. And it wasn't long before the church, I think, actually formally hired someone to be over the singles ministry.
That's amazing.
So that's super rad, yeah.
But it's to the point that you just made. If you're a single out there and you're in a church, it may just take you stepping up to the plate and saying, we need this, and I'll help spearhead it to get it going. And if the church leadership can get behind you, then it may not take very long for a singles ministry to take off and be very effective in a local church. So please do step up to the plate.
Because every member of the body is so important. I mean, Paul makes that picture over and over again, that each member is crucial to the body.
Yeah,
so.
Very good point. Last thing I'll say as a final reminder, and I'm not trying to be a downer on this, but all of us are going to be single at some point in the future when we get to eternity.
That's true.
Because Mark chapter 12, verse 25 says there's no marriage or giving in marriage in heaven. So the single life is going to be something all of us experience.
Yeah. Some people just have a head start on us.
There you go. There you go. So, all right, we hope you've enjoyed today's table talk. If it's been good for you and you've found some benefits, share it with some other people. Give us some good likes and reviews. And then we hope you'll come back and join us for our next episode.